Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 16th meeting of the Southern Fried DNN user group. We have a triple header here in the offices tonight. We have great speakers spending some time with us, and we're really excited about the content and the information that we're going to share today. The meetup location has us with 21 attendees registered, and so we do have a lot of people online. Thank you to everybody who's joining us both online now live, but then after the fact, thank you very much for watching and participating with your Southern Fried DNN user group. We've got a lot of information to go through tonight. Again, I mentioned it's a triple header. We have Will Morganwick, who's going to spend some time talking with us about module development best practices. There's a lot of question and information that is that we're all looking forward to hearing from Will tonight. So it's going to be a good conversation there. We have J.R. Brooks and Kyle Daly from Manage.com in the house tonight. So in honor of them, in honor of them coming to join us and party with us here tonight, I decided to put together a little bit of an introduction to one of my favorite tools that is with Manage.com servers, which is their control suite. So I'll give a little bit of an introduction and talk about that a bit. And then finally, to close off the evening, we have Mandeep Singh joining us to talk about two of his newer module releases that are pretty exciting, both live exchange and live forums. And you know, I think it's been about a year since we had Mandeep on, so we're really excited to have him on and hear what's cooking over there. But to move forward, we're going to move into community announcements and information, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about. There's a lot going on. We've talked about that there's a buzz since the summer and since the new DNN Corp announcements that has been building this buzz and excitement. And I think that the amount of community announcements that we have to go through today is a good example of showing that there's a lot of activity and renewed activity and interest. So, jumping right into it, Clint, can you tell us just a little bit about the announcement that came out here this afternoon or this morning, in which DNN was officially joined the .NET Foundation and was thanked and mentioned in a couple of tweets this morning that we saw. So that's a step in the right direction. A lot of people are excited about this.
Yeah, so today we had two pretty big announcements or blog posts that came out. One was at 9 o'clock this morning, which is DNN has joined the .NET Foundation. So ever since the acquisition, the theme has been transparency, openness, focus on community, and this is just another one of the items that is like keeping promises here.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're keeping along, we rebooted the newsletter. We've merged Twitter handles. There's more stuff to come. Joining the .NET Foundation is a very positive step. It just reinforces our commitment to open source and the community. But also it gives us a lot of resources that we can leverage from Microsoft. So like lower down in the article, there's a link you can click, and they list out on the .NET Foundation website like all of the benefits. Just like, for example, they've got a CLA management product that we could then leverage. If we needed to, we could use their forums. They do mentorship, guidance, a lot of things. So there will be benefits that we'll reap. You may not see all of them on the surface, but it's just another step in the right direction.
It's another level of visibility as well.
Yep.
Within our .NET community, we've been present, but this is another kind of official presence for us.
Yep.
So the second blog post that I wanted to call attention to was Andy's blog post from the morning as well. Kind of an overview and information. He's been with us here for 3 months, and this blog post is just a little bit of information about what's been going on and what he sees as positive, but there was also some new announcement information in this. Clint, you want to tell us a little bit about the ecosystem advisory groups?
Right, yes. So, Andy's given his kind of perspective after 3 months of the acquisition, and, one of the action items out of this is this ecosystem advisory groups, right? So we've got these 4 categories of hey, if you want something to be better, or if you wish something was changed, here's your opportunity to get involved, and we're essentially allowing the community to kind of help shape the shared path forward. So you'll notice like we elaborate in the blog lower down about each group, kind of like what the purpose is, what the task, what we hope to get. And essentially, we're wanting to start the conversation, and ultimately the conversation will lead to action. So for anybody who's listening, the last paragraph is basically, if you want to be involved, just email me. I'm keeping a spreadsheet of who's going to be involved in what group. We got David here is going to be the champion of the partner group, which is a very broad group. Sean Walker, I brought my little Sean bobble.
Yeah, let's see that. Here we go.
DNN World 2011.
A little lower.
We're still waiting on the Morgan bobble. It hasn't arrived yet. But anyway, Sean is going to lead the architecture and technology group, so that's exciting. And so it's just, like I said, it's an exciting time to be in the community. We've got a lot of positive traction and movement and energy. But if you want to be involved in one of the groups, just email me, clint.patterson@dnnsoftware.com, and I will put you on the list and get you lined up with the leaders.
Just to give my impression about this announcement and about this structure, one of the things that Andy talked about day one when we met him was showing that feet on the ground and action spoke much louder than words or intent. Yeah. And to me, this is a carry-through of him saying that he wants the community involved and he wants that participation and activity. And if you got that message and are excited about these new things, here is your first real strong way to participate and have your voice heard and have your thoughts in a participatory way to go straight into corporate and straight into the direction that we're all going. So this is a very, very strong announcement that was kind of slipped into a 3 months overview. This could have been 3 blog posts by itself. So very important announcement, I feel.
Yeah, and also, and you may going to be in the next slide, but with the UI automation testing, are you covering that?
No.
So like if you go to the community blog, like just hover over community and click on blog, in the last day, we've had George Alatrash has posted like 4 blogs. We have open sourced the automation testing. So is it not loaded? Did you click it?
No, you just sorry. I just sat there. I thought you were describing something else.
Yeah. So if you scroll down a little bit, you've got that one by Andy that posted. Obviously, there's a Meta one, the .NET, and then those like the next 4. So this is another big step in openness and transparency, right? And this is us open sourcing our automation, and it written in F#, different kind of technical things, but I think it's just another
big deal.
Another promise kept. Yeah, I mean for a lot of the deeply technical people, like they're getting this.
Well, that'll also help facilitate pull requests for things that require those automation.
Yeah, because one of the things is when somebody, like for example, Andrew Heffling, he wanted to submit a pull request, and one of our guys went back to him and said, "Hey, can you do a test with this?" And so this would, help with that kind of thing. Also, we've got a little consistency going on in the summary images. If you just scroll up and down the page just a little bit.
Were you personally responsible for that? Is that
I've been having to chase some people down and update some imagery. I've had a couple conversations with Nut.
Yeah, it's looking good.
But we're trying to make it, simple.
Okay, so continuing on with community things, I personally missed it in my inbox, so I want to mention there was another DNN Digest.
Right there, November 2017.
All right.
If you didn't get it, just scroll to the bottom of this page. You'll notice there's a banner now across the bottom of all community pages. I got a little liquidy with content.
Oh, well, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So you just sign up right there. I'll spam you once a month, and you can hate on me about it.
To be serious about that, the DNN Digest is the renewed, brand new newsletter from DNN, and Clint had the very first one last month, obviously, and if you missed it, November's is out. You should read it and get into it. Many of the things that we're talking about, we're obviously going to post into our blog post for tonight's meeting, but several of these things are also linked to and mentioned in that DNN Digest.
A lot of info, and I will say it's not just me. Like even though my name's on it, there's like Dennis helps, Ellen helps, so it's a team that makes that possible.
All right, so we have some events coming up that are worth mentioning, and there are a few that are fairly important. First off, we have a webinar that's coming up November the 30th. That's next Thursday. or one more after that, sorry. That is the expert panel, DNN administration tools that make your job easier. I pass it back to you again, Clint, because you're organizing that one. Do you want to talk about that for just a moment?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just me rounding up my friends and having a webinar. No, so like, you know, Kelly Ford has contributed prompts into the core, and so obviously we posted blogs. He's presented here. Prompt is a very powerful, like, command line interface for DNN, which I think people will love. David has contributed in the quick site, which makes installing DNN very simple. I'm still waiting on you guys to get it to work, or to like install into Mandeeps. No pressure. And then obviously, you know, Ryan, you're Evotiva super fan. So the theme is like install, manage, backup. So if you're a DNN site administrator, obviously you got to install it somewhere. You got to like create pages, add modules, all that kind of stuff. And then once you get it up, you're probably going to take a backup at some point. So we're going to highlight those tools, and you guys are going to be presenting, and we're going to have Kelly Ford there, and hopefully it should be a good one. There's also a webinar that is not listed yet. Mr. Morganwick may elaborate on it a little bit more, but we're going to have a module development best practices webinar in December. It's not listed yet, but it will be soon.
So, Will, we're going to bring back and ask you to talk about that, too, in just a moment. The one webinar that is listed is the second event I wanted to bring on tabs here. December the 6th, Andy sent out an email announcing this one, and my understanding is this is similar to the, I don't know, kind of public forum session that he had earlier last month. Anything different to elaborate on that, you think?
No, I think he just quarterly, I think these are going to happen. Now, I could be wrong. Will, Morgan, feel free to correct me, but I think Andy just has a standing quarterly virtual user conference, which will probably be similar in format to what we had. Because, you know, again, we're talking openness, transparency. If you remember in the first one, it was like we talked about some stuff, he took a poll. And then, you know, based on the feedback, we kind of, you know, adjust things. And so I look forward to it, honestly.
Then I think our final announcements here in the community section of events, we do need to talk about DNN Summit. DNN Summit is obviously our next big community conference. It is in February 2018 in Denver. A lot of people are working behind the scenes to get this thing moving and to get it running, and we have several announcements. First off, if you don't know about the training courses, or if you haven't signed up yet, please go take a look at these training courses. If you know folks that would benefit from introduction editor level training, administrator level training, skinning and theming, or module development training, then these are your full day courses that really help you get more out of it. Many people who have inherited a DNN site, or maybe they've moved into a different position within their their government workplace, they find themselves managing and working with DNN. The intro and the admin courses would be great for you. You're a skin developer who used to work in skins, but you're not really sure about some of the new things that you could apply and really take advantage of out of DNN 8 and DNN 9, then you should be in the theming one. Module development.
Scott Wilkinson's online, by the way.
Hey, we could have him talk here at the end. Module development, at the end of last year's conference, there was a lot of talk about whether you're doing SPA or traditional levels, and I'm sure that conversation has changed in that amount of time. So a lot of good to happen out of the very first day of the conference. The second 2 days of the conference are all about the speaker sessions, and I believe now that all of the sessions have been posted. David,
all
that's
the
right?
speakers have been posted.
David will make a comment about it.
Yeah, David, do you want to say anything about speakers?
Actually, all of them have been posted now,
okay.
At least all that we have confirmed. At this point, I'm not sure if there's going to be others coming along later, but their session titles have been posted as well. You do have a bio of each person, as well as the sessions that they will be presenting. And forthcoming, once the schedule gets worked out, the sessions will be posted for everyone to get a little bit more detail about the sessions themselves and the time schedule.
I'll take a moment to mention that Aderson Oliveria with DNN Hero is doing a lot of video conferences, video interviews of the speakers to go through and hear a little bit about the important things out of each person's session. So if you're not sure what sessions you want to visits, you're not sure what's going to be important to you, take a look at these. He's doing small video snippets where he can get just a minute message about each one, but then it's also part of a longer conversation where it's about an hour. And today I participated in the second one of those videos. That was about an hour. There was one earlier last week, and there's going to continue to be these. Clint, I believe every time a video snippet comes out, you're also posting it on the DNN Summit social as well, so people can get these videos.
No, we're definitely staying. I mean, when he posts one out, we retweet it.
Retweet it. All right. Yeah. So if you're not sure where to find those, spend some time on the DNN Summit site and on the Twitter feed of DNN Summit, and you'll be able to pick those up as they start to get presented. Okay. Any other community announcements that I missed, or anything big in the? There's a lot to go through. Anything that I missed or didn't talk about?
Just one quick comment. The energy's growing, right? I mean, it's pretty good. It's a lot of positive energy going on. There's a lot of contributions starting to happen that just weren't, quite frankly, happening a while ago. So it's really nice to see that happening.
All right. Yeah, I'd agree. All right. Well, as I mentioned, tonight we have several speakers in the house with us to spend time with us. Our very first session here is going to be with Will Morgenweck. He is visiting us to talk specifically about DNN module development, security, best practices. I won't put more words in his mouth here from that, but I will bring up just a couple of things and then pass it over. Essentially, we have different articles that have been present on DNN Corporate, in the wiki, in different blog articles. We have information that's out there for module best practices, security best practices, module development in general. There's a lot of resources out there, but there's also a lot of conversation about what it takes to put things out there and keep them out there. What you should do if you find out that there's a vulnerability, those types of things. So really Will's joining us to put a personal face on a lot of that conversation that's been happening in blogs and tweets and people back and forth. So we're, as a community, I think we're all really excited about spending this time here with Will. With that said, David, do you want to switch over presenter and we'll pass over to Will? And Will, how are you doing this evening?
Doing pretty well. Looking forward to sharing some of this information with you guys, and looks like you guys have a pretty good attendance tonight, so that's good. I agree. I think the energy is up, and that gets everybody excited, which is good.
All right. Well, I think it's in your hands now. You can take it away, and why don't you tell us just a little bit about kind of an overview where we're going here tonight? Yeah.
So one of the things that I really want to start doing is getting discussions going, like you said before. Want to get these discussions going about best practices for module development. I mean, you were showing some details there on some of the old things in the wiki, but the dates on those were from 2015, right? So there's a lot of information that's out there still, and there's things that need to be updated. The other thing that I want to do too is I kind of want to talk a bit about some of the things that are going on in the ecosystem regarding some of the security things that have happened recently over the past few months. And I just want to be open and transparent about some of that. So I want to kind of also give an opportunity for some questions. There's no way I can cover best practices in this entire session. I'm not intending to do that. But I just want to start to build some more awareness. I think as a group, if we can build more awareness, if we can ask more questions, we can get more people involved in the discussions, it's going to make it better for everyone. And like I think Clint alluded to, there is going to be another expert panel webinar that's going to be happening on December 7th. It's not on the website yet, but that's coming. And that is going to, I'm going to moderate that panel. I will have Peter Donker there. I will have Mandeep. We will have Brian Dukes and Scott Wilkinson there as well. So it's going to be a great panel covering what some of these developers do day in, day out when they're building modules. Because honestly, the incidents that have happened, some of these security incidents that we've had to get involved in have been kind of eye-opening. And I've alluded to some of this on some of the things in the forums where we have to make some changes as an ecosystem. And we can't do that just as DNN Corp. It's going to have to take the whole ecosystem getting involved and starting to do that. So let's just kind of talk about a few things. Everybody can see the screen, right?
Yes.
So probably everybody had heard about this. I know I came to this group and I talked about this too, but back in June, there was this hacking group that went out, wrote some little scripts that go out and exploited as many DNN websites as they can find.
Hey, Will,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you, but which screen are you showing? We're just seeing a background.
We're
right
seeing
now.
your Macintosh background at the moment.
Oh, you're not seeing a PowerPoint?
Not
No,
yet.
not yet.
Let's see here. How do I?
Yeah, we're seeing the screen, but it's just probably the wrong display or something. Now we're not seeing the screen at all. I can send you a request again. Will you do
Yeah,
that?
can you do that? Because I'm not seeing the tools to. There we go. There we go. All right. So.
Man, it wasn't printed back
You
then.
do get to select whenever you the middle icon there for the screen. Yeah,
There we go.
There we got it.
Oh, we're seeing the Ohio.gov hack screen. I show this one. Yeah.
Russians, the Russians.
I show this one in my session that I'm going to be giving at DNN Summit, so it's a famous one.
Yeah. So, you know, this, like I said, this was an eye-opening experience for us in the sense that, you know, this went out there, this happened, it happened very quickly, and not only were they exploiting DNN sites, they were exploiting specific modules. And so that kind of triggered us to have to go in and start to look through these modules. They're actually, throughout the whole thing, there were 4 different vendors that were serving modules that were affected by this. And we had to make some decisions. One of the things we did is every single vendor that was impacted by this was immediately removed from the store. So we did that for a couple of reasons. But the number one reason was to help prevent the spread of what was happening, right? So by keeping those faulty modules on the store, people could still go buy them, install them, and it was just kind of expanding the footprint of the potential for the vulnerability. So we immediately removed them from the store, and we began working with those vendors to help them understand what the issue was, making sure they knew how to fix it, and also applying development resources from DNN Corp in to help some of these. All in all, the vendors were extremely responsive. Now, I am going to be honest about this. There was one vendor that it was a bit more difficult to work with as we went through all this. And we ended up removing that vendor from the store. That vendor is DNN Go. And the reason why we went through that is because it's in our best interest to keep the ecosystem safe. It's in our best interest to continue to raise the bar a bit for module standards, because we don't want to end up with a reputation like WordPress. And what can happen is if we just let, and you know, just kind of turn our head to some of these situations and we let that continue, then that's just going to end up getting us to a point like we had with WordPress. Now, the reason why we had to do that is because when you kind of go through and you look at some of these things, we had to gauge the interactions that we had with the vendor. We had to gauge the education that the vendor had with these security incidents. How easy was it for them to fix it? And then we also had to gauge where was their interest. 3 out of those 4 vendors was extremely embarrassed by the issue, was worried about getting it fixed, was extremely helpful in getting it fixed. Then that other vendor, all they cared about was getting back on the store. So for us, we had to basically say, look, that's just not the right attitude about this. 1, there was a blatant disrespect for security, and then 2, their interest in keeping the ecosystem safe just wasn't there. So we did go ahead and decide to remove that. Now, that being said, the thing is that we don't have the resources to go ahead and say we're going to scan every single module out there and ensure that. There's probably other modules out there on the store that have some of the similar security vulnerabilities. And one of the things that we want to change as we start to build out these ecosystem advisory groups is that we empower the community to start to police some of this a little bit better so that they can start to see some of these and they can bring light to this. It would be fantastic if we could get an ecosystem group that could help us validate new listings on the store, that we know that people have taken a look at these and raised that quality there. Because if we have to go to a point where DNN Corp is putting more resources on this and having to validate everything, then we've got to do more with fees on the store, and we've got to do more that way. So if we can keep this as an ecosystem initiative to do that, it's going to work out in the long run. So that being said, coming back to what we've done with DNN Go, so obviously the ecosystem is asking for them to come back. We also went back to DNN Go. One thing I will say, despite what's being said in the community, we have been very open and transparent with what's happened with DNN Go. We have communicated with them. We have replied to their emails. We have told them explicitly why they were off the store. So we also asked DNN Go to stop spreading misinformation about how this was so that we don't have to go out and post all the emails that we have and do that. That's just not what we want to do.
Are they still off the store?
What's that?
Are they still fully off the store now?
They are still fully off the store. However, what we did today is we did send them a note. We had been going through a review of some of their skins and making sure that their skins were secure again. We just randomly said, send us these skins, let our security team do a review, and go ahead and send back any findings. We did find another issue with them, and we had to have them fix it again, and they released an update just earlier this week. So, but that being said, the ecosystem wants them back. So we are going to put them back on the store with a caveat. They are not going to be allowed to sell modules right now. That's just based upon what we know, based upon what we have seen. It's not in our best interest to allow them to start selling modules again. We are going to allow them to start selling skins that do not contain any module-like functionality. We will have the right to review those things as they come in, but we do want to see them back. We want to keep the ecosystem positive. We want them to start to police some of that and hold to a higher standard. So one of the things I'll talk about in here is how, as a buyer, you can request more and expect to see more from a module vendor and how to go about doing that. So I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I did feel like we needed to get that out in the open so that everybody understands where we're coming from and the reason why we had to do some of that.
Will, I'd like to just begin by commending you for the approach in this conversation. I wasn't sure how sensitive or politically nice we might be in describing things, but you're not dancing around a sensitive topic. You're diving right into it, and we're talking about the details that have been on everyone's mind. So thank you very much for approaching that in this way with that much detail.
Yeah, no problem.
So what you're saying is that now you're going to go through and kind of give some outlines of what it might take to get into the store or out of the store, what might trigger a review. Is there going to be some public structure of people understanding what standards there are to be met and, I don't know, bullet points on what it takes to be reviewed and ejected from the store if that occurs?
Yeah, we're not quite there yet. That we will get there soon. I think that what we're going to be doing is we are working on the store listing process. So in order to put something on the store, I'm hoping lots of people are familiar with EVS, which is our extension verification service, which is a utility that people can use. It's evs.dnnsoftware.com. It's a utility that people can use to go ahead and upload their module package, and it'll scan for some common issues that we find in modules. Now, it doesn't scan for security yet. That's one of the things we want to get to. But it is going to start to notify us if files have some common problems that we see in modules that can cause security vulnerabilities. And I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. But what we want to do is we want to get that integrated with the module listing service so that when you go and you upload a module package, it's going to automatically go through EVS, and then it has to pass EVS before it can end up on the store. So that's one of the things that we want to do in order to automate that a bit. So as we've been going through some of these modules, I do want to point out some of these things that we see in modules, and as I go through this, that we'll talk a bit about what you guys can look for and what developers need to pay attention to. So these are things that are common problems in DNN modules. There's, of course, lots of other common things that you see in some other web application frameworks or CMS products like SQL injection. We don't see a lot of SQL injection issues because a lot of people are going through that data layer and doing that. But these are the top 5. So cross-site scripting, that's where where developers are not properly filtering input, and they're able to add JavaScript or other types of code into these input forms and hijack it. File upload, that is, I should have made that one probably number 1. That's the biggest problem, where people will have an unsecure way of allowing people to upload files, or they don't have enough security around or checks to validate what is being uploaded. Another one that we see is a lack of permissions, where maybe you have a task that's, let's say, like editing a blog post, and there's not enough permissions around verifying that the person that's editing that blog post is the person that should be editing it. Or if it's about creating content, that the person that's actually has the right permissions to do that. So a lot of times it means that the developer just hasn't put enough protection in place as they go through it. Another one is a denial of service, which are areas inside a module that can allow for something to just go ahead and hammer the database, hammer the web application, and ultimately make the website unresponsive. And then finally, custom admin interfaces. So this is something that has been a bit of a trend, and we're hoping that as we start to improve the persona bar even more and extend that and create more extensibility points, that we can start to get away from some of these custom admin interfaces, because these have been some of the problems that we've seen that expose some of these security vulnerabilities or these custom admin interfaces where people either they, like I've seen some vendors, they go off and they go to like Theme Forest or somewhere else and they buy an admin interface, they take that, they plug that in, and then when a person goes to the admin tools for that module, they go to an ASPX file, and there's all sorts of vulnerabilities that can be exposed that way too. So these are some of the things that we've seen. Now, probably the best thing to do as a developer is to start to think like a hacker. And one of the things as you're writing code, I mean, I personally, when I was doing modules, I was paranoid about being hacked. I was paranoid about a security vulnerability being found in one of my modules. That was something as I'm writing code, as I'm going through that, lots of different things that I was keeping in consideration as we're going through it. So the first thing is to think like a hacker, and that means you have to have some common sense about how a hacker could potentially take advantage of a situation. And these are just a few things, like what can I do with this? If I had access to this piece of code, if I had access to this particular view, what could I do with it? Can I inject some JavaScript? Can I go ahead and change the values and enter values incorrectly or other changes that way? What problems could I cause? Could I cause a disruption in the service of their site through a denial of service attack? And how can I prevent that from happening? What kind of data can I access? So if I put this particular piece in there, what am I exposing? If I'm building, like, let's say, an e-commerce system, do I really need to store the credit card number? Do I really need to store any other types of personal identifiable information? And if I do, how can I protect it so that I can make sure that it can't be exploited? What kind of files can I access? So if I'm uploading my source code or I'm uploading some type of protected documents, am I making sure that there's a proper security around that and a person can't manipulate the file path in order to get to it? And what kind of files can I upload? We've seen some pieces where the developer will go ahead and wrap proper security around the upload tool, but I can upload a zip file. I could upload an exe, and then I can navigate directly to it if I know enough about DNN, domain.com/portal/0/root. I can start to manipulate things and find things. And one other thing too here is that this is kind of where we've seen that that exploit that I had that screenshot of, and the way we believe that they kind of found that is a lot of the developers will have free trials, and that means anybody can go in and get the module. It's .NET code. It's very easy to decompile and start to unravel that. So those free trials, while they're great, but if they're not secure, it's going to just make it so hackers can find it out and exploit it. And then finally, what are some of the other systems that I can access? So by gaining access to this one system, if I can upload any file I want, like a ASP file or an ASPX file, that's going to give me root access to the site, kind of like a shell script, then I can access any other systems on those networks, depending on how things are configured. I'm sure the guys that manage know how to make sure that that doesn't happen, but we've seen it happen where people can get access to, they upload a shell script into the website. That website, they can go in and they can review the connection string. Once they review the connection string, they have access to the server where the SQL is hosted, and we've seen people get access to every single database that's in that instance of SQL Server. So that's kind of ways you got to think about making sure that they can't get access. And the biggest thing as you're a developer is be a defensive programmer. So as you're kind of going through this and you're writing that code, is that code really necessary? And if the code is necessary, do I have enough protection around it to make sure that it is going to be secure and that it's going to do exactly what is necessary? So making sure that you're writing purposeful code and not code that could be problematic. Where we see this happen a lot is when people will go out, they'll find an example on GitHub or somewhere else, and they'll copy and paste. They'll copy and paste that code. They don't know what the code does. They just know that it solves their problem, and they don't realize that it does allow file upload, and all you have to do is know the path to get in there. So you got to be very careful with that. And then the other part is that when you're kind of going through that, does the code allow access other than how it is intended? So meaning that you built something out in the UI, and you're basically saying, you know, let's say it's an edit screen, and so you've got a piece of content that you want to edit. Does that code only allow me to edit? Does it allow me to do other things? Does it allow me to create new records if I just do some manipulation? So making sure that you've got those proper safeguards in place. And that kind of carries over to being able to protect your code and the user interface at the same time. So it's definitely, especially in the world where we're all writing lots more client-side code, trying to do your security on the client side is just asking for problems. You know, I've seen things where, coming back to that edit experience, right, where it's very easy to, a person says edit, and they've got a hidden field somewhere either in the JavaScript variable where it's got the record ID, go in and change the record ID to a -1 and do a post, and now all of a sudden you've created a new record. So a lot of those things you've got to keep in mind as you're going through it. So protecting the user interface, being smart about your variables, and doing that, and updating on the server side too. Remove legacy code. So a lot of times it's very easy, and the core is just as, whoop, sorry, Alexa all of a sudden responded. So the core is just as,
stuff for you on Amazon.
What's that?
I say she's going to order stuff for you on Amazon.
Could be. Or is going to start doing my liquid content demo for me. So,
Music.
Can we start ordering our Christmas list with your Alexa?
I just muted it. That's done. You missed your chance.
Okay.
Yeah, so here, removing legacy code. So this is something that, since the acquisition, something that we've done is, and we haven't really talked about this much, but our development team essentially doubled since the acquisition. So we brought in some additional resources, and we have been going through that code base and cleaning up a lot of code. Those of you that monitor some of the check-ins and the processing that's happening, you've probably seen a lot of activity happening there. And that's because one of the things we're doing is we're going through, clean up a lot of code, and we're also fixing a lot of open issues. So really trying to focus on our bug debt, which allows us to also focus on our technology debt. And in this particular case, I'll just kind of share this little tidbit as we're going through this. One of the reasons for really removing a bunch of legacy code is that the lighter we can get the framework, the easier it's going to make our transition to ASP.NET Core, and that'll be another conversation later down the road. But that's the way we're thinking about it. Let's make the core as light as possible by removing legacy code.
Right.
And a lot of times in modules, you want to make sure that as you're a module developer, it's very easy to go in and comment out that block of code, but really just get rid of it, clean it up. It keeps things more organized. And then finally, be extra careful with third-party code and components. So as a developer, it's very easy to go out and get that JavaScript library, or in the instance of one of the modules that we had the issue with a Flash file upload component that had no security around it whatsoever, right? So it's very easy to go and get that, especially when you're a developer that doesn't completely understand what's happening. And you know, that's one of the things that I've always loved about DNN, is that the barrier for entry into our market is pretty low, which is good. It can help us grow more. The problem is that does allow developers that are trying to solve a problem and they don't really understand how they're going to solve that problem to go out and find some code and bring it in and just start using it. And so we've got to be extra careful about that. That's another reason why we've got to have some better coverage when it comes to the store components too. Because it actually was a third-party library that one of those that the DNN Go had in their file upload that was part of that exploit. So we've got to be clean about some of those things. All right. So that was some quick things about the developer side of things. Now that's when we do on the December 7th, when we do the experts panel, we're going to talk a bit about security too. Each one of the members of that panel are going to talk about what they do to make sure that the code that they're writing is secure. So that'll also be a great session. We should have that up on the site for registration here in the next day or so. So that is going to be a great panel. And again, that's about us keeping that conversation going and starting to get more of this information out there. So if you're the buyer and you're looking at buying a third-party module on the store, these are some things that I think that you need to take a look at as you kind of go through this. So what does that module really do? And that means, I mean, that's an easy question, right? But really getting into the bottom of what is it doing to my system? Not so much about what it's doing in the UI, but what is it doing to my system? Does it alter the SQL database? Does it alter the web config? What kind of files does it install? Does it install ASCX? Does it install HTML, ASPX, ASHX? You've really got to look through all those details and understand what it is. And so you got to make sure that, go ahead.
Or stray PHP files, which has been in the case sometimes.
Yeah, that, or ASP. I mean, PHP, that's completely crazy, but I'm sure it's happened. But I've seen ASP files inside of it too, especially for those custom admin interfaces. The majority of these hacking shell scripts that we've seen, they're .asp files. So if a module is allowing, if a module contains an ASP file, one, you need to make sure it's not security, but then two, why the hell would somebody do that now? That would just be foolish to have that in a module. So you've got to look for some of those things. And then look at what kind of data does it capture. And then try to verify that data as you kind of go through it. If you go through an input, and you have an input screen, and you look at that data, go and see if you can find it in the database too and verify, make sure that it's there. And then look at that type of information, especially if it's like personally identifiable information. Want to make sure to see if it needs to be encrypted or what's your use case there for that information, how you can make sure that it's secure. What files does it upload? This is huge. If we could put a filter in place today that prevents third-party modules from having uploads without us going through some type of security, I would do it. Because this is the #1 problem with some of these modules, is that it just allows random uploads of files. So if you're going to get a module from the store, do the trial. Try to upload things. Try to upload a zip. Try to upload an ASP. Try to upload an EXE. Go through all of those steps before you put that module on your production website, because those are all potential problems. And also, even if it still allows it, maybe there's a use case where you do want it to allow upload of zip files or EXE or things like that. Make sure that it's properly secure. You know, saying that a registered user or just an authenticated user is not secure. Making sure that it has the proper rights based upon the permissions of the module is better. Does it look like a DNN module? I think we all know what a DNN module looks like, a proper DNN module. It probably has some module settings. Now, I'm not saying it looks great, and I'm not saying it's got the best UI, but what I'm saying is that that's going to kind of draw your attention to, are they potentially following best practices, or have they gone a bit out on their own to how they built that module? And if they've done something different, that means if I were the buyer, I would have a little more scrutiny into how I'm going through that. What does it install? So if you could do like a backup of your site, you install the module, and then see what it looks like. What has been added? What files have been added? What database objects have changed? And then do an uninstall and make sure that your site is exactly back to where it has been. There was an instance, and this of course went, we didn't have to do anything about it because it was removed. It was a brand new module that was out there. They were asking to be part of the Evoke Preferred modules. Had to go through a review for that. As we went through it, the uninstall was leaving some tracking code behind. So it was like they wanted to track all these modules, and that was just like a pure red flag. So you want to make sure that that time doesn't happen. This is going to be about how you interact with that vendor. How does that vendor address security issues? Ask the vendor, what kind of security issues have they had? How did they treat it? In our ecosystem, it is okay to be open with these things. It is okay to share that information. A module vendor should not shy away from it. Yes, they should be embarrassed, but they should be out there and open. It's better to be open about it than to hide it. So it's best to get that out there. Ask the vendor if they've had any issues. Ask them how they address those issues. And then as you're going through that, is the vendor responsive? That's just what goes without saying for any type of third-party module buying, but is that vendor responsive? How fast are they responding to you? Are they giving you accurate answers? And then keeping those things in mind. So that's just kind of to get things started. I think that as we start to build up, especially with Peter Donker leading the developer advisory group, I think that's going to be fantastic. I know he has a lot of things that he wants to do for knowledge. and getting that out there so that we can get developers more on board, and start to get better knowledge out there so that we can enforce better policies out there on the store, or what will be known as the DNN marketplace eventually, so that we can have both open source and commercial modules out there, and we can really raise the bar of the quality of the items there. Any questions, comments, concerns, things you like, you don't like?
Will, I'd like to jump. Yeah, Will, I'd like to jump in first and ask about, you have this webinar coming up later in December. Do you have a date for that yet? Do you want to mention that, plug it one more time?
Yeah, December 7th. December 7th, it's going to be, I think, 12 o'clock Pacific.
Okay. All right, we will make sure to share that as much as we can when we get the link for that, sign up for that webinar.
That's
Dave,
3
do we have,
p.m. Eastern time, by the way.
thank you, Pete. Dave, do we have any questions in the chats that we need to come back to for this?
It's mostly just snide comments and
Right,
shout-outs to
Peanut Gallery.
Mandeep support being awesome.
All right.
There was one about the potential of considering preferred lists, things like that, and what certified vendors. That I think is kind of something that's come up in the past in discussions, ecosystem. So, if that's even a possibility in the future, or do you foresee that in the future?
So, Will, did that make sense? It was kind of talking about a preferred status and kind of a review status.
But not an evoke preferred, just like
Right.
Community
just
side.
Kind of a certified vendors, people that are trustworthy, that kind of thing.
I think that could come out of Peter Donker's group.
It's something that could come out of Peter Donker's group or David Poindexter's group. So,
or David Poindexter's group. All right.
Let's nominate people.
I noticed that there was also...
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I noticed that there was also a comment on one of the blog posts about the 4 groups that we kind of have parceled out of the going forward. How are we going to move DNN as community forward? And one person pointed out, and I would agree with it, is that we're missing a user experience group.
You want to lead that one, Pete?
I could at least chip in, I guess.
To continue forward, Will, thank you very much for that conversation. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add as we move on? For next step?
Just one thing on the advisory group. So that was a good comment about the UX, and that's actually something that we have discussed. And one of the things that we've kind of thought is that underneath the developer group, there are going to be other areas and other segments under there. We expect that group is going to kind of expand and get quite large, and we would kind of see that because it's one thing to go off and say that you're going to do UX, but if you can't get the people behind it that are going to be implementing it, it's not going to be enough. So we want to get that so that people can understand it and have some collaboration there. No, I agree, UX is not development. It absolutely isn't. But I've seen where you take UX and people just kind of go off and there's nobody to implement it because the UX, most times good UX people are not coders. So you want to be able to have some overlap and you want to be able to get some things and kind of working together. But I think Stroll mentioned it. We want to get those 4 pillars that we're calling them, those 4 members of the ecosystem. We want to get those going, and then we'll let subgroups grow as they kind of grow organically and build that out.
Good.
We'll see how it happens.
Well, in the interest of time, we need to move on. This is an important conversation. I think everyone feels that and recognizes that there's been a lot of good detail here in this. And Will, we thank you for that. Hopefully, you're staying with us here for the rest of the session. We'll bring you back some questions and some fun here toward the end. But let me move on and say hi to the folks in the room with us. We have yes, loading. Been long enough, it's timed out. Let me click a few of these things. Could you get me back to presenter again? So we have the folks from Manage.com here with us in the house, and I got to bring up the right screens to get everything on here. Sharing. All right. Did my Manage.com screen go away? JR, do you want to say hi here for a second? Thank you very much for coming out to join us here for tonight's session. We always enjoy having you out for a visit here and being in house with us.
I'm happy to be here and happy to support. I think this group does a great job and has done an even better job in the last 6 months of getting really important issues out to the table. Seems to me like attendance is continuing to grow, input's continuing to improve, and that, to your David, your point earlier tonight, the energy in the community is growing, and I think that's a tremendous thing. I think the acquisition base that is driving that, a lot of that. I think you see a lot of positive coming in. Can't wait for DNN Summit. I think it's going to be a tremendous kickoff to 2000.
Very, very good introduction. Well, in honor of you joining us here tonight, I am going to give a little introduction to one of the tools that I use on our own. More Creative as a company, we do. Everything okay on the screen share and audio stuff? Okay. We have a lot of different sites hosted in a variety of different places, but our managed.com, PowerDNN locations are my favorite to work in. And if you catch me at a DNN Summit or any other online location, I'm glad to talk about the benefits of the tools and the support and the things that I get from managed.com. But tools-wise, I wanted to share a little bit about a tool that maybe not everyone knows about or knows how to use, and that is the Control Suite. I'll share some articles about the Control Suite, but part of what I'm doing tonight is just kind of an introduction to what I use it for. But it's been released and it's been promoted several different times before. We can be on DNN Software, main corp site, and we can see where there was kind of a highlight over the DNN Control Suite. We have videos. Adderson did a review, a while back talking about it. We can catch blog posts at Business Wire and other locations where they're talking about the new features that have been rolled out in the Control Suite. And I wanted to just take a few moments to share with you a little bit about what it can do and what we use it for in our VPS instances that we have with PowerDNN. So just to give an introduction to it, when we're remote desktop into one of our VPS locations, the Control Suite is a tool that we can use. Obviously, we're remote desktop in, and we can do things directly in IIS and get done what we want to get done. We also have Plesk running in this location so that we can do things with Plesk, which, again, is a tool that helps you manage things and give control to people underneath of you that you want to delegate that to. There's a lot of power there. They all do some of the same tasks, but they do them differently, and you get to them in different ways. And at the end of the day, these tools are power usage or power use ways to do the same tasks that you might do in other ways. Tripping over my words there, but what I'm going to show you here in Control Suite is that these are ways to get some other jobs done, and I think they are quick, and I think they are efficient. And with the example of tools like NV QuickSight as being a great way to quickly load up and install an instance of DNN in a location, Control Suite lets you quickly go through and do several different types of things. So I'm just going to walk you through a few of the screens and talk about them as I go through. On my desktop here, I've got Control Suite. We basically log into it, and I might have to do it this way. Bear with me. Some of what I'm showing, I'm blurring out information. I really don't know what is sensitive. So I should show or not show of my own information, IP addresses and things. So I spent a little time blurring some things out of here. But when you load a Control Suite, over on the left-hand side, you have different tools and a listing of the things that are on your server location here. And as I kind of go through, I'm going to show you what it looks like as you open up sections and play around with these tools. To begin with, you can launch Plesk from this location. You basically then launch it in a browser and you start working with it. You don't have to remember your username and password. You're just launching your own Plesk and you're starting to work in it. And you can do everything that you need to do Plesk related from there. But I'll point out that over here on the left-hand side, I've also expanded the domains section. We basically have, kind of the Plesk is the header. We have optimization. We have domains. It breaks out and shows you all the DNN instances or sites that we have set up in IIS. We have databases.
You got a question?
Yeah, already.
This tool would be for a dedicated server as opposed to a shared plan. Correct.
That's a really good point. This is available for your VPS instances, for your dedicated instances. There's a potential that's available for some other things as well, but it is running here because I have server access to this location. Yep.
That shared site is a tool for us internal. That's not accessible for.
No. So, I've expanded the domains, and these are all of the sites that we have in IIS. We have database, and then we kind of have a list of things over on the bottom left. I skipped over FTP, but other tools, and I'll come back to some of these other tools because some of these are fantastic tools that I would have been loading onto any server that I start to work on, but they're already here for me. And there's some tools that I hadn't seen before that I enjoy using here. So, good point that I'll come back to in a moment. But just taking a look at some of the functions over here. When you click the header of domains, you have the ability to create a domain. At this point, it's the same equivalent in IIS of creating a brand new website. But you're doing it through, my understanding is, Control Suite is giving the commands to Pless, and it's going through that proper process of creating a new domain so that it's there and ready in Pless with all of those controls as well. When I create a new domain, I'm able to put in a domain name. I'm able to set up FTP controls for it at that point. I'm able to decide a few things here. If I want to turn on classic ASP, for instance, if I want to enable PHP in this location, so you have a little bit of control of what you're creating here. As I go through, I'm going to kind of walk through this step process, but
so this is the section where you turn off the hacker, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. You make sure you notice those things are false by default. But once you've created that domain, it then adds it into your list of domains, and then you're able to install an application into that. So here I created a brand new domain, and it shows that there is no app installed in this domain, and you can choose to install an app, and .NET Nuke is obviously in that list. From there, I'm able to choose the version of DNN that I want to install, and it's a pretty robust list. I don't know if it's in this screenshot or not, but it goes all the way back to 1, which was surprising to me. And if you choose 1, it's setting up the proper .NET version and everything it needs to go ahead and have it running. So it's fairly impressive.
Actually work.
We don't recommend it. We have a lot of customers that have sites that
it does actually work. Yeah.
I'm just so old people don't know how to hack it.
All right, so you choose your DNN version, and there we go. I showed that the scroll goes all the way down to 1, as you kick that off, it does a few things. First off, override DNS is one of the states, so that if that domain name doesn't actually exist yet, or it's not pointing to this server, it's setting up the host file internally, so that then it's going to go ahead and load when it's done building this site. At that point, it runs through a series of notices, tells you what it's doing, and it switches to the browser, brings up that install process that you run through, and in a moment are running with an instance running of DNN 7 or 5 or 6 or whatever you chose to have it run. So it's a pretty straightforward process to build a brand new DNN instance. And in this location, we were migrating from an old location over to the new. We wanted to start off with a copy of DNN 6, which matched the client's site we're bringing over. So at this point, in just a few moments, we've installed in this new location a DNN 6 instance. Now, a few other things to call attention to is that when you click on that DNN instance, so any of your other DNN instances that you have running in the site, take a look at the tools that are across the top of the toolbar here. You have the ability to patch Telerik vulnerability. Click a button. You're done. Now, you might still have some problems. If you've got tools that are relying on it and they have a problem, you could still have Telerik-related problems. But with somebody who's managing a site, you know that you can go and do all these things through DNN installs, but you can also do them right here from this control suite. Additionally, clone DNN, clone .NET Nuke instance allows you to quickly set up a staging copy of something that's running. You click on your first copy, and you can then begin that process to clone and make a copy of it. Migrating and restoring from another copy. Optimize site, upgrade site, log in as one of the users, optimize performance. There are a lot of tool features here that I won't go into all the way, but there are a lot of valuable, important tools. I will step through just some of the things in the upgrade process, though, because that is fairly exciting and fairly important. Let's take a look here. Oh, I was doing, I believe, a cloning or a backup. So just to take a look at a cloning or a backup, it's letting you know that progress as it goes through it, and it's pretty impressive. The upgrade is also important. I am doing upgrades often enough. I have my own cheat sheets that give me the recommended upgrade paths and things like that. But on a manage.com PowerDNN instance where I have Control Suite, I don't have to bring those tools and run through it myself. Control Suite's going to do that for me. So it's going to help me run through that upgrade process. And if there is an error, it will roll back. So you can go through here and see the recommended packages and go ahead and kick off that upgrade process. Just to talk about a few of the other things that you have here, there are more tools kind of on the left-hand side that we can get into. Notice that one of them is to reapply permissions. If you have a problem, there can be ASP.NET problems where suddenly you have new folders created and the permissions are out of whack from the top down. You're able to reapply permissions instead of going through and manually doing that in IIS or in folders. There is a malicious file checker. This, again, is one of the tools that I'll be pointing to or talking about at DNN Summit. Anything you can use to help you review is a benefit that you bring to the table. So I love this malicious file checker here. Logs. One thing that we have to do often enough is search for information in logs, and we know that we can go into our DNN instance and find those things. We know that we can go into IIS and find these things. We know we can go find the files. But just the fact that this has a custom search built into the top and a date range, it gives us an interface that makes it easier for us to go through and search crash logs and information here. So I did want to point out that one of the things that you can do is get into the logs and look at the event log, the installer log, and the crash log for more details and search for things. And if you're thinking about doing it in a server where you have multiple DNN instances, then this really helps make short, quick work of it, instead of having to go through everything individually. Let's see, so searching IIS logs, just kind of showing a little bit of details for that. Other tools. So just pointing out some of the other tools that we have here in this. There are database-related tools that let us get started with a backup and restoring a backup. There's some maintenance tools that allow us to do find and replace. Obviously, if you have direct access to SQL, you're able to do a lot of quick work there. But just having a tool here of find and replace is, again, it's about being quick and efficient with your tools, and this is another very good helper here. Shrink database is another one of them. I run a few things, Evativa backup when I'm doing things on a scheduled basis. It can also do shrinking and things on a scheduled basis, but here's a manual way to quickly get in there without having to go through SQL and doing it across a whole bunch of sites at one time. The other tools that I'll mention kind of a little lower down, go back. There are things like the, obviously a Notepad++ instance that it can go ahead and launch for you. Tree size. Don't know if anyone can see that, very tiny down there. Tree size is a file evaluation program that lets you take a look at the hard drive space and see what is taking up so much room on your disk drive. It allows you to see that in a graph format, in a pie chart kind of format. It's a quick way for you to see what's taking up the most room on your site. And when you have a lot of different DNN instances, you know it's going to be in the portals folder, but which one of the portals folder? You got 22 portals in this one DNN instance. It allows you to quickly see that portal 12 is the one that has 3 gig of files in it or something like that. So tree size is one of the other tools that I use pretty heavily. There are other things in here that are Process Monitor, Process Explorer. In some of the other newer ones, there's things like just the encrypting things for SSL. A bunch of different tools here that are just, obviously installed in the system that you can launch from here. They make it easy for you to get the jobs done that you need to get done. And there we go. I think that's a quick run through of that manage.com PowerDNN control suite. It's a tool that I use daily when I'm working on things in sites where I have it available to me, and I thought it'd be good to share with everybody because you see a lot of different tools, and if you're not familiar with PowerDNN based servers, you might not have run across this one before, and it's one that I think that people can get a lot out of.
And I really appreciate you taking the time to do that, Ryan. Ryan and I talked a couple weeks ago, and he offered to give kind of a demo from a user experience, which I thought was a lot more powerful than having it, come from us as a sales tool experience, right? We have Derek Sims, who is our engineer that develops this tool for us on the phone. If there's any technical questions anyone wants to ask, we'll be happy to jump on and answer them. It's a tool that we provide for free as being, one of our customers. So if you are on our network, on our servers, this tool is automatically loaded into your environment. And we have in the past made exceptions and allowed it to be used outside of our network as well. But that's on a rare case. Typically that is not for.
Well, since we do have you here in-house, anything else you want to give us as kind of a Manage.com update? What's new or exciting, or are we too close to DNN Summit? Are you going to release some surprises, news for us?
Yeah, I think we'll have some news. As we come closer to the DNN Summit, we have made quite a few changes in 2017. Maybe changes in 2016 that we talked about when we were here. Right. But in 2017, we launched a private cloud solution. We launched a HIPAA solution. We are soon going to be launching a solution that is an advanced private cloud in partnership with HP and an organization called Remove. So that will be something that we talk about a lot at DNN Summit. A number of things that we are working on to help ensure that we're expanding our offering and our services to keep up with the needs of our customers, right? And the needs of the community. And, 100% are behind DNN Corp's stated vision, of expanding the community and building the ecosystem, and we're looking forward to being a key part of that community and helping grow that ecosystem in years to come.
I think we'll want to have you back on to talk about that HIPAA solution just a little bit. That's always a sensitive, important item to hear about. So we'll think about that for sometime after DNN Summit.
Ryan, were you going to show any lightsaber or Jedi stuff?
I meant to do it before when I was introducing Will, but then the seriousness of the topic, I didn't. So, Will, if you're on, please stay on, and when we wrap up, we're gonna challenge you to bring out some Star Wars swag and show us some things here. So please don't go far, Will. All right, so we are moving on now to Mandeep Singh. Mandeep Singh is with Mandeeps.com. I believe it was a good 2 years of me working with Mandeeps related products before I understood that his name was Mandeep Singh, and that's the name of Mandeeps.com. First name, last initial, and so it's just by habit that I almost want to call you Mandeeps instead of calling you Mandeep. I have to put that in my head very specifically. So, Mandeep, thank you very much for joining us here tonight. I'll call out just a couple of things as I start to pass you the screen for you to share. But your website has a brand new skin, and I feel like this is just a month or two old. This looks like a brand new release and a brand new skin. Did you just roll that out here recently?
No, that's actually been there for a while. Ryan, I believe it's been there probably a year or so now. But yeah, the slides keep changing based on the different products or time of the year.
The home page has dramatically changed in the last month, the month to 2 months, I feel. If nothing else, the slides. I'm going to stick to it because I was impressed by some of the new. I know that. Okay, so Mandeep, we're going to pass you the screen, and we're looking forward to learning about live exchange and live forums and those new releases. If you want to go and pass over, David, we'll go from there.
Let me tell you about your website.
All right. Let me know when you can see my screen.
We can see your screen.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So it's been a great session. I mean, Will, that was very informative, and I'm glad he was able to share all that. And I think that was needed to get out into the community. So thanks, Will, for that. And thanks, Ryan, for doing that PowerDNN control suite. That's awesome. JR, we use it all the time for our clients and for our own purposes to manage sites. It saves us a lot of time. All right, so I'll be spending just a few minutes keeping it brief here, keeping the time. So I'll be basically talking about our two modules here, Live Exchange and Live Forums, both of them recently released.
Mandeep, sorry to interrupt you. We're all only seeing a black screen, so it may be that the right app is not selected yet.
All right, let me see how we could change that.
That just demonstrates how secure his components are.
It's actually the box icon. It's like a square icon. You should be able to select the appropriate.
How about that?
Yes, there you go. We can see your Live Exchange now.
All right, great. Okay. All right, so we'll be just talking about Live Exchange today. We'll take a look at a quick demo and some of the features. So Live Exchange is basically built up with inspiration of Stack Overflow, and I believe there was a DNN Q&A module on Codeplex there for some time as well. So we had a lot of clients in the community kept asking for a solution where they could do a Q&A and basically crowdsource ideas and build a community. So it took us several months to come up with a solution. I'll jump over to a demo quickly, and then we'll take a look at some of the features. So the front-end UI is pretty clean, nice, tells you if there's any votes, if there's any answers, number of views, author, the tags, so the basic stuff there. If there's an answer, the UI kind of turns. If there's an accepted answer, then you have another visual indication and so forth. If you have any votes, then we have this it's a visual way of actually saying who endorsed the idea or the question and so forth. So talking about the ideas, Live Exchange actually powers, sorry, I'm skipping here. There's two different themes built into Live Exchange. So you can use it to do Q&A or you can use it to do ideas. And with ideas, the concept of answers disappears, and instead you get to use a built-in feature of statuses in the module. So you could basically see if the idea was accepted, it's waiting on community review, trying to see if there's interest in the community, if it's a duplicate, and so forth. I'm going to skip really quick back here. And this is what I was talking. I was just waiting for the page to load. So you can see there's 3 people upvoted for it, and here they are, so you can visually see it. I'm going to jump back to the features. I think it's a pretty self-explanatory module. There's not much there to demo, but you could, out of the box, you could use it for Q&A. We have an ideas theme in there, and then we also have a bug tracker theme there. So the functions or the features in the background remain the same, but the template, the themes actually take them away from the front end to give you a clear and concise COS, so your end users are not unnecessarily bogged down by features they don't need. So it can be used for customer support, private collaboration, and I'm going to cover that with some of the granular permissions we have, and same goes for focus groups. So basic Stack Overflow stuff, you can ask questions, there's answers, people can commenting, and comment can go on the question or the answer. And then you got your tags for organization, people can upload, download, and then we have the concept of statuses. And you can do any number of custom statuses. You can have, so the module automatically assign a default status when a question is asked. What's really interesting and what I really like about this module is the granular permissions. So you could actually define who gets to ask questions, who gets to answer them, who can comment, who can change statuses, who can accept answers. What this lets you do is basically lets you set up so you could have a Q&A form where, as a company, you want to get feedback from your customers. So you could have the company asking questions and the end users basically responding or commenting, or you can do it other way around where end users are asking questions, and you have a dedicated support group that's answering them, and so forth. Or you can make it basically a public community and open it up to everyone. So this allows you to set it up in a lot of different ways. So one of the other things you can do is allow the original owner who's asking the question to change their own status or to accept the answers. You can also allow the owners to add their own new tags when they're asking a question. You can take that functionality away if you want to force them to choose from an existing list. So this is great for if you have a set of, like for example, our own site, we have a set of products, and we don't want people to unnecessarily, clutter the Q&A platform. So we force them to choose one of our products as a tag, and obviously they can choose multiple. So a lot of flexibility there on how you can set it up with the permission. There's moderation built in. You can individually set moderation for questions, or for answers, or for comments, or all three of them. And moderation's built in. There's a dashboard, which these screenshots are showing, which lists you to basically list all the items that are awaiting moderation. Or you could basically go to individual question, and then you can moderate from there as well. So depending on how you're navigating, you can either way as a moderator go and moderate. Moderation is optional, so you have the option to turn it on and off on each individual item level. There's great SEO built in, and I'm just going to run down through some of the very generic stuff, not much here. There's support for open graph meta text already built in. It's integrated with our URL provider, which basically gives you full control over the URL that's being generated. You have the option to even remove the page name from the URL, so you could have it say mandeeps.com/whatever you want. So full control there. Has support for structured data built in as well. So some great options for SEO. A very great search functionality is support for full text. So if you have SQL Server with full text enabled, definitely use that option for much more accurate and relevant results. There's search priorities built in, so something similar to DNN, so you can give different priorities to the, if you want to search the title versus the content and so forth. And then there's the option to do some ignore words as well. So the idea here is that all the navigation is now search driven versus actual visual navigation driven. So whatever we can do to make the search more accurate and quicker, we're doing that across all of our modules. So great functionality in terms of search. Any module which is community, which is basically of building communities nature, has a lot of notifications being on in terms of emails. So a lot of granular support there too. As an admin, you can decide which emails to go out. So as you can see, there's tons of different settings. Emails going out to moderators, to end users, to administrators, and so forth. So all of that is basically granularized, so you can choose if you want to turn off specific notification, you could do that. Every single one of these is a template-based notification, so you have the option to obviously go ahead and modify those templates to have your own brand and look and feel. The entire module itself, as I was saying, is theme-driven, so out of the box there's the Q&A theme and the ideas and the bug tracker. You can always create your own themes, simple HTML, CSS templates. So very easy to customize the look and feel, again, to match your own brand look and feeling. Lastly, I just want to say we have several other modules that kind of fall under our under community engagement modules, like Exchange, Forums, Help Desk, and Knowledge Base. So all of these modules are integrated with each other. For example, if someone opens and asks a question that should have actually been a help desk ticket, you can easily kind of take that and move it to your help desk. If you think it's going to be better served in a private kind of environment collaboration versus a public forum, then you can certainly move that to your help desk. On the other token, if you think someone asked a question that should really be in a knowledge base article, then you can simply take that after you answer it and move it to your knowledge base, so you don't have to keep copying and pasting. It automatically moves that for you, and you can move it to your knowledge base. Same thing if you think and it's vice versa, so you can have someone opening up a discussion and you think it should have been really a question, you could have moved it to the Q&A Exchange platform, or a question can be moved up to a discussion. And lastly, there's integration with the module itself, because there's a concept of themes, so you could use Live Exchange for questions and ideas and butters. So you could then move items within multiple instances of Live Exchange. For example, I can take a question, move it to an idea or as a bug tracker. So that's pretty much it for the rundown on features. I wanted to keep this very quick and short, considering we just have a few more minutes left for this meeting. Do we? I thought is this 5 o'clock or we're going till 5:30?
We still have time. Please continue and go through the details you want to get through. We're not stopping in 5 minutes, so you've got.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry for going through this rush. I really thought this was gonna where our time was till 5, so I just rushed through this.
Yeah, it is tight, but we very much appreciate it. But I also don't want to shortchange the really good information you're showing here.
Yeah, don't worry, the bars are open till 2 there.
If you're going to go on to the forum in a moment, do we have any questions about Live Exchange so far from the group online?
I haven't seen any yet. Some nice collaboration ideas in there, but no specific questions yet.
I was going to ask. Oh, go ahead.
Yep, absolutely. Go ahead.
I was going to ask. You mentioned about transferring things, and obviously from idea to bug and back and forth. That's within a Live Exchange instance. But if you're then taking something and moving it over to the knowledge base, or instead moving it over to the forum, is that a move or is it a copy and pointer?
It is a copy at that time. It is not a pointer. So it basically does the copy for you. You could choose to then leave the question open if you want to, or then go back and delete it. It's up to you. But it basically saves you all the time. For example, I have this option here from actually copy pasting, and the copy is pretty thorough. So it's going to preserve the original author. So when I take a question, for example, or if you go to our idea section here, and if I take this and move this to our bug tracker, we preserve the original author who actually responded to it. Who actually opened the ticket. So all of the information is preserved. If you've already answered the question or if there's comments, those are also moved over. So then you have the option to finally edit it. For example, let's say you're moving it to a knowledge base. We don't necessarily want to paste it or publish it in its entirety. But all the data is moved over to knowledge base, and then as a publisher, you have the option to review it, and then you can remove what you don't want, and you can format it nicely if you need to, and then go ahead and post it out.
We had a question from the online group who asked if you were already using the earlier DNN Q&A module. Is there a migration or an import path that can help get you into this?
That's an excellent question. So we just released these modules. We are working on those import routines. We just actually finished one for a client. It is the YAF DNN module, the yet another form module. So that will be releasing, I believe, next week, where you could import from, if you're running YAF, down to either Live Exchange or Live Forums. And then the next one, I think, on the list is the DNN Q&A module. So I don't have timelines, but I can tell you that it's on the pipeline. It should be coming up soon.
Okay, so if we're in that situation, we just hold tight, and you'll have a migration tool or step for us to run through maybe next year.
Yeah, it should be a lot sooner, actually. So the way the routines work is basically they're usually sponsored by a customer. They come in, and then we pick up a bigger tab of it so we can offer it back to the community. And I can already tell you there's a customer or two in the pipeline. They want to do that for the DNN Q&A too. So I am hoping it should be more like in a month or so than a rather longer wait.
Nice.
Has anybody asked about live visualizer yet, or do I need to wait?
Okay, so we interrupted though. Continue please with I think live forum now.
Clint, I think Live Visualizer will need a separate meeting, and there's just a whole lot of development going on. So for those who don't know, that's another product that we're working on that has not released, and Clint has, I believe, beta tested part of the functionality for us. But there's just a whole lot more work pending on that product. But we're going to get that out soon, Clint. So Live Exchange and Live Forums, the functionality is pretty much overlap. Live Forums obviously is a little bit different in terms of discussions. It's obviously a different team. but more importantly, it has no concept of answers and other clutter from a Q&A format. And it has some of the features that you would normally see in forums, like pinned discussions and ability to lock threads and so forth. But a lot of the other features that we talked about, such as the search, the SEO, the templating, the notifications, the feature set is pretty much identical. So, was there a question there that I missed?
No, just a good pun in the peanut gallery.
So I think that's it from me for the demo of the modules. If there is any questions, I'll be happy to address.
All right, folks, we'll open it up to folks here and folks online. Do we have any more specific questions for Mandeep with these two products? I know Mandeep. It seems like we see, at least this year, a good release every few months of new features, new updates, and like these new products. You've got a suite of products that all interconnect and relate to each other tightly, and that just keeps growing over time. So anyone have questions here about these online?
Are there any teasers you can give us on some of the top secret development that you have going on or anything?
Okay, so we heard Visualizer as a name of something coming up in the future. Is there anything else you're excited about, Mandeep, for next year that maybe if people don't catch you at the DNN Summit, you'd like to tell them is on the horizon, maybe?
Absolutely. So a couple of things. First, I'm working with some personal dates here, but I really do want to be at DNN Summit, so most likely I'll be there. So that's one. On what's coming up in Horizon, Live Visualizer is a big one. It is not a app development framework, but it is more of a it's a mashup between an app development framework and form and list module, and really don't know how to put it, but we're trying to solve a lot of problems for it. At the same time, we're trying to keep it very simple in how it is being used. But it will connect with our existing Live Forms module. That's going to be a requirement before it even gets installed. So we're actually leveraging our Live Forms module as the backend developer. So you could take a Live Forms module and build any forms, even multiple pages, multi-page forms, and then use that as a backend, and then create your own templates as for the front end. So there's a lot of application to open support there. It will not only use Live Forms as a data source, there will be other data source backed into it, like SQL data source, so you can write your own SQL codes and do that. It will also tie in with the concept of somewhat similar to liquid content, but not quite there. There's no cloud concept there, but it basically reusable content that you can reuse throughout your site. So that's another problem it's solving. So that's what Live Visualizer is. Some of the comments are hilarious.
See, now you're laughing too.
We got Mandeeps to laugh.
Yeah, we did.
I just read the one from Will. So Will, I've actually had clients telling us, why isn't live content doing live videos? It says live in the title, so that's really funny.
Will's comment for people watching this later was, if Mandeep had a live video streaming module, would it be called Live?
Yeah. So there's actually one more product that we're very excited about. It's been in development forever. I think I talked to Will about it almost 2 years ago, and that's our e-commerce solution that we've been working on. It's been going on in development forever. Obviously, at here at Mandeeps.com, we don't release a product half code. So until we're satisfied with the quality and the level of work, even if it's just initial version, we're going to continue pounding at it. But we're seeing some hope. Hopefully, in next a month or so, we should have a community preview out there. It's a full-featured e-commerce solution built in. From granular permissions down to each UI level, you can specify who gets to do what, to an extensible platform that you can build and extend on. So that one we're very excited about.
Well, that's what we were hinting at, and thanks for making the announcement that it's definitely still in the works and on the horizon, because we're all quite excited about it. And I'm trying to ignore the funny names. People are already pitching names for you to name your new product, so you have to mind the comments later for your pick choices.
Maybe we should have a contest. So
we can put it as a Q&A update down there.
Yeah, live Shopify and all those.
There we go. Live contest. That's a new product coming up.
Well done, Will.
That's great.
Well, guys.
Hold on. Lightsabers.
Yes, I was going to say we're going to start wrapping up here. Thank you very much, Mandeep, for for presenting with us. We'll come back. Obviously, looking forward to seeing everyone at DNN Summit. But
Speaking of the live DNN platform,
we'll make sure to buy you an extra drink when we see you at DNN Summit. David, if you bring back screen share, I'll go ahead and bring up a couple of screens. So if Will is still on with us, is Will still on with us? You did? All right.
Yeah, I'm here.
Here we go. Where's? Are you going to pass me the screen?
Yes.
To display? No.
I hear it.
Yeah, so Dustin turned on right here. Dennis challenged us earlier and said, hey guys, since Will and Ryan are going to be on, are we going to have some Star Wars props show up in our session? So yeah, I wanted to make sure everyone can see. I raise you a clone trooper helmet. Oh, there we go. All right. I can't actually see what he's got. It's just dark.
Yeah. It's dark.
Very, very, very
That's right.
All right. That is a DNN Summit saber there in Will's hand, I believe. Dustin has our Flash and Clash there in the background here.
I don't see anything, guys. All I see is Ryan's screen.
We've got our video on, and we can kind of see.
Yeah, look at video.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I can do that.
No, you can.
Very nice.
Yeah. So this is kind of a plug or a mention. We lost what?
Oh,
Bring that behind him, too.
Yeah. So anyways, a lot of noise over here, and kind of challenging Will to show some of his things on screen. But this is some Star Wars fun. We have obviously the new movie coming out here at Christmas time, and last year at DNN Summit, Will was the proud winner. He walked away with.
No.
Yeah, I don't elaborate on that.
No, I did not win it.
He walked away with the very first DNN Summit saber. I misspoke. He didn't win. We had another.
I've been treated.
We had another attendee. Attendee win, and then I believe Will wore him down over the evening and was the proud owner who walked away with that. I think there was an exchange there. Will, did you send him a replacement saber?
Not yet. His demands are pretty high. I'm still looking for one. The one that he wants is pretty rare and pretty expensive, so still working on that.
Well, I'll announce. I thought I might have some items that I could show here on screen, but here for DNN Summit 2018, we're again going to be providing some prizes and some giveaways, more creative. And I have two sabers that are in the works, as well as one that will walk away with one of the attendees. So I have a few things that are in the works. They're going to be DNN branded and DNN Summit customized again. So watch for some videos coming late December, early January for those. So some good prizes. Thanks again to all of our participants who were here with us tonight. I wanted to give a shout out to everybody who registered on our meetup. That we had we had a large amount of people RSVP and let us know that we were going to be here. And online tonight, we had a pretty good attendance and turnout. And obviously, we know that during the weeks after we post up these videos, we get more views on those afterwards. But thank you to everybody who came to join us here in person. Thank you everybody who joined us online at night. That really helps encourage us and build that energy of what we're doing It's not just that you're watching after the fact 2 weeks from now. You're engaging here. You're asking your questions here. You're bringing them to us. And that's part of what makes this user group a force for good, a force for information and change and your ability to participate in the DNA community. So thank you, everybody.
May the force be with you.
So Dennis says for 2019 you should make lightsabers that can be used as ski poles.
As ski poles. That's actually pretty easy. I could work that out now.
Yeah, it's like handles.
Very, very nice. Well, you know, that would be to assume that, you know, you're going to be in a skiing type location in 2019. You might be in a Charlotte type location in 2019. Well, I don't know. We'd have to see. You might even be in international waters. So there might be some other locations. All right. Well, Clint, David, do you guys have anything else that we want to add here as we wrap up this meeting? All right. Thank you again, Mandeep, for joining us. Thank you again, Will, for joining us. Our managed guys have just stepped out. They're coming back around. Thank you very much.
Smoke a Marlboro.
Yeah, thank you very much, Manage, for joining us here in person. Guys, here it is the end of November. This is our last meeting for the year. Our December meeting is traditionally a Christmas party in which we don't put it online or stream, but we have a good time. We encourage everybody to have a wonderful Christmas season.
Oh yeah, we won't meet next month. Right?
We won't meet, exactly. We won't have a meeting in December, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Hey, if you guys are having a Christmas meeting, can you at least post the dates and times so that if I'm in the Charlotte area, I can swing by?
Absolutely will. If you're in the area, if you're in the area and you want to get up here to see us, or down here to see us, depending on which way you're driving, we'd love to see you in person and have a party with us. Our next meeting online will be in January. Can one of you guys grab me the third Thursday in January real quick? At that January meeting, we will be talking a lot about DNN Summit because it will be right around the corner. So that is January the 18th, the third Thursday in January. Again, 6:30. Catch the meetup information on our meetup location or on southernfrieddnn.com. But we'll be talking a lot about DNN Summit. We'll be right around the corner, so we'll be really pushing and promoting information that we know about, things that have finalized at that point. And I think that's it. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you online, and good night.